these kind of things, which require treatment and medication. We're kind of talking about emotional and, you know, kind of difficulties we have going on in our mind, which are taking away our peace, really, right? These are things that we all experience, and we all go through difficulties in this sense. So really what I'm going to be speaking about is a person's condition with regard to their psychological and emotional well-being. Okay, so where are you guys at the moment? Are most of you starting, you're just beginning college? Would that be fair? Would most people be that kind of, is that where you are, or just are people younger, or what age group?
And there's a good bit of us in college already, or some of them are starting new, and then some of them are working as well.
Some are working as well. So you have from what, 18 to
18 to
kind
like
of
25, 26, 27.
15 to 25. Okay, so you'll have all had different experiences, right? So we're going to just speak a little bit about the well-being of a person in condition in the sense of their psychological and emotional well-being. So you've all experienced kind of an anxiety or worry or stress, things weighing on your mind, and this is a very difficult experience for all of us. I think, you know, nobody likes to go through that. We think of even the night before Jesus died. You remember in the garden, and he had the weight of the world on his shoulders, and he knew how people would reject his love. He could see this, and his soul was so sorrowful. He was going through a lot of stress and difficulty at that time. And I suppose when we're thinking about mental health, we should think a little bit about, firstly, our physical health. So if I want to be healthy as a person physically, it doesn't just happen automatically, right? I have to eat the right food. Would you agree with that? I have to watch myself. I have to eat the right food. I have to exercise. We're made as kind of social beings by God, so it's important that we have recreation and we have friends and so forth, and that we can, you know, associate with other people. When we live in, say, solitude or by ourselves, it can have a very detrimental effect on us. Have you ever seen the movie Castaway? Has anyone seen that movie? No? With Tom Hanks?
That's
Okay,
fun. That's fun.
you saw it? Thomas saw it. Good man. You're showing your age. So anyway, Castaway is a movie about a guy who worked for one of those big logistic companies, one of those big delivery companies like DHL or one of those. I can't remember which one it was, and he was on a plane and he was delivering loads of packages, and the plane crashes and he lands on this desert island, and he has everything on the desert island. I'm just going to hire my computer here. Maybe that's a bit better, is it? Yeah. So he has everything on this desert island. He has, you know, it's a beautiful desert island. There's a beautiful beach. Sounds nice, right? That you'd land on a nice place like that. There's loads of fruit, and he can fish, and there's fresh water and everything further in the island. But the only thing he doesn't have is human company. And he needs that. And he craves it. And he realizes, you know, this is having a really bad kind of psychological effect on me. So there is a volleyball there, because they, you know, this plane, it's like, think of all these orders from Amazon or something are on a plane, and they're making their way from England, the warehouse, to Ireland. And so there's all sorts of stuff. So there's a volleyball there, and the volleyball brand is called Wilson. And so he kind of draws a face on the volleyball, and he begins to talk to Wilson, and this volleyball becomes his friend. And he's doing this just to stay sane. You know, when people in prison, when they do, say, bad things, like they try and escape or they attack another prisoner, what do? They put them into isolation as a punishment. So we need other people. This is really important. God has made us to be relational creatures, and that's why I think the lockdowns and all this are having such a major impact on people's lives, because we're missing that part of it, right? So what I'm trying to say is that to be physically well, we have to look after ourselves, but to be psychologically well or to be emotionally well, we have to look after ourselves as well. It takes work and ongoing work, and there is a balance to be had. Okay, so if I'm if I'm, let's say, spending too much time with my friends and I'm eating badly and I'm getting really no exercise, I'm not doing my study, my psychological well-being is not going to be very good, right? Because I haven't got the balance right. If I'm overstudying, maybe I'm studying, I'm getting up at 7 in the morning and I'm studying for 12 hours every day and I've no outlet. That's probably not a problem for any of you, I'm imagining, right? But let's just use it as an example. If I've no outlet, I start going a little bit, it affects my mood, affects everything. If I need to sleep, I need to eat well as a human being, I need to meet other people, and I need to do my work. And if the balance isn't there, then it definitely will affect my mental health, affect my psychological well-being and my emotional well-being. Okay. So that's the first thing I want to say, that in life, we have to try and strike a balance. We probably never get it like perfect, but you'll see if you're starting to get a bit snappy and, you're kind of struggling to kind of put up with things that ordinarily you would put up with, say, for instance, you might just have a little bit of a think, maybe I don't have the balance right at the moment, maybe, when was the last time I went for a walk, or last time I was on my own, or the last time I prayed, or how's my sleeping going? Maybe I'm eating a lot of fast food and I'm not getting a balance there, or I'm eating way too much sugar, or whatever it is, in life, we need to do things in moderation. There's no problem having a beer or whatever, but, if you have a load of them, you might get yourself into a bit of difficulty. Moderation is the goal for us, right? And we do, sometimes we do get this wrong, all of us. But it's to be kind of, I suppose, humble enough to say, I got that wrong, and I need to be socializing more with people, even though I might find that difficult. I need to study more, maybe I'm socializing too much. I need to spend more time in prayer. I need to spend more time with my family. I need to spend more time with my girlfriend, whatever it is, my husband, my wife, whatever it is. If we find it's like when you are physically unwell, you'll know, right? You'll say to people, I have this kind of headache, or I have this pain in my arm here. And so your body is telling you that there's something wrong with you physically, right? And in the same way, you'll get little signs that maybe things are not so great with me psychologically or emotionally at the moment. And don't worry about that, because we all go through, it's part of the human, just like we get sick physically and things happen and we get colds and flus and some people get very sick. In the same way, we can get psychologically kind of unwell. So that's the first thing I want to talk about, because I think that's probably what most of you would kind of experience in terms of psychological or emotional difficulties, and to always look first, am I striking the balance here? Okay. No, but there's a lot of other things I just want to mention as well, because we can find as well that our relationship with God, okay, in the world today, I would maintain, you may agree or disagree with me, but from my own experience, so I'm 44 now, so I've been around a little bit more than some of you. So some of you think I'm really old, and some of you think I'm probably not that old, but I've been around a while. I'm a priest. I meet a lot of people, hear a lot of confessions, spiritual direction, the whole thing, right? So I think people are sadder now today than they've ever been. Does that surprise you? I think people are sadder. Their mental health has never been as bad as it is nowadays. And yet people have, and I'm talking about the Western world here, really, okay? So people have more than they've ever had. In Ireland today, like, there's nobody who's hungry, let's say, right? They've never had such possibilities in terms of education. When I was going to school, the job prospects in Cork were zilch. I mean, before I was a priest, I had to go to Dublin, and then I went to London, and now, college graduates in Ireland can, have a good chance of getting a job and so forth. People are driving cars at a way younger age. When I was growing up, like, nobody my age had a car. And now, like, lots of people even going to school have cars. That was like something we saw in the United States. You have access to everything at the touch of a button. You can all come together like this virtually and the whole thing, right? So people nowadays have more than they've ever had, and yet they're sadder than they've ever been. Okay? Because these things don't ultimately satisfy us, right? And that's the experience people are having. And we can see there's a correlation between the decline in happiness and the decline in faith. If you don't believe in God, if you don't believe that there is more to this life, then it's a case of, well, I'm this kind of group of cells with no real purpose. And I need to, and it's about me. And I need to do what I can as quickly as I can in this life and make the most of it, because once I die, that's the end of it. Whereas if you're a believer, if you believe in God, you can hand over your problems to God. You can share your problems with him. You're not alone. And that is a huge, huge difference. I went through both in my life. I had a time when God kind of slipped down the priority list. He was probably like third or fourth priority in my life. I had a business and I was making a lot of money and all that, and I lived in London. But I was nowhere near as happy as I am now. My mental health state was not very good. And I was living a life really to please others. I wanted to be a success and everything so that people would think that I was great. And so I was living a kind of a slavery, trying to impress others and so forth. Now, with God more in my life, and you'll be glad to hear that because I'm a priest, of course, I can share my burdens. Jesus says, come to me, you who labor and are overburdened, and I will give you rest. Shoulder my yoke and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart. So he gives us this beautiful image. In the time of Jesus, to plow a field, you had the two oxen, and you would put on the oxen, you put this kind of harness, and they would carry the plow together, right? So one ox on its own, it would have been too much. You needed two, and they put the harness so that they were shoulder to shoulder, carrying this together. That's what the Lord wants to do with you. He wants you to bring your problems to him, your difficulties. What's on your mind now? Bring it to the Lord and let him go shoulder to shoulder with you and pull the plow together with you, because on your own, you can't do it. And so many people, lads, are so miserable today. So many people are suicidal. They said something like 25% of young people in the United States throughout the coronavirus period contemplated committing suicide. This is unbelievable. And yet you're growing up at a time when it kind of seems like, that's just the way it is or whatever. It's unbelievable. When I was in UCC, 15% of students went to counseling, This, like when I was going to UCC 20 years ago as a student, nowhere near anything like that. Now, some people should have gone and they didn't. There was like a stigma attached to it. But now it's kind of, people are going, seeking help so much. They're sadder, they're empty, there's something missing, and they don't all need professional help, is what I'm saying. And they maybe just need someone to listen to or a good friend. But we're living in a time where everything is so fast, everything is so instant, and that life is kind of becoming kind of meaningless to people, And people before, like my parents, my grandparents in Ireland, they wouldn't have had a lot. My mother went to school in the 1940s, and she told me that, some of the kids in her class wouldn't have had shoes. It's hard to believe in Ireland, right? It's not a long time ago, 1940s. People wouldn't have had shoes, but it was a beautiful place to live, Ireland, because it was a place of trust. And it wasn't unusual. If you were, a woman at home with a bunch of kids, it wasn't unusual for another woman to come and knock on your door and say, would you like me to bring your children out for a walk? And you would give that woman, even though you never met her before, you would give her your children. And then she might say to you, would you like me to get you some shopping? So this woman who you'd never seen, you'd give her money and you'd give her your children, because that's the way society was. Can you imagine that? the trust that was there. Now we've gone to the other extreme where you don't trust anyone, and people are building higher walls and gates and so forth because of that. So what I'm saying to you is, if God is in your life, and if you can bring the Lord more in your life, and the difficulties that you have, if you can share them with Jesus, he will lessen the load, and the cross becomes much more manageable. And that's a problem today, lads, that people, they're trying to do it on their own, and they can't do it on their own. Another thing Jesus said to us, he said, I give you a peace that the world cannot give. Has anyone experienced that peace? In your heart. It could come through prayer, or just you feel just contented. I've had that in my life so much from the Lord, and it is the greatest grace. You cannot get that from anything in the world. You can get the latest, well, I don't know how big our TVs now, 47-inch or something. I don't know what it is, but they're huge. I was in someone's house recently, and the TV was bigger than the wall. And he had Netflix, and he had, I don't know, he had like loads of these Netflix things, options, whatever. I was like, how do you get time even to watch these things, you know? But these things weren't making him happy. You know, so nothing in the world will give you the peace that the Lord can give you. These are his words. He promises to give us this peace. A peace the world cannot give, he says. I give you that peace. So it's about really, like, I want to say, like, your mental health. You're going to go through, you know, stressful periods. You're going to go through periods of anxiety, worry, fear is very real in all our lives. You know, something happens out of the ordinary, and then all of a sudden a fear comes in. It's normal. These are all emotions, but we have the opportunity when these things arise to try and hand it over to the Lord and say, Lord, I trust in you. I trust in you. I know that you'll take care of me. I'm your problem. You look after me. And so the only thing we really need to worry about is, am I ready to die tonight? Because the Lord might call you tonight. That's the only thing you have to worry about. Have I got my bags packed? Am I ready to meet the Lord? That's the only thing you have to worry about. You don't have to worry about anything else. He'll look after everything. I'm going to tell you a quick story. How long have I got? Is it 5 minutes? How long have I got? 5, 10?
Yeah, 5 more minutes, Father.
5 more minutes, okay.
Right, yeah.
So imagine you're in this little rowing boat, okay? And there's space for two, and you're in the rowing boat, and you're in a beautiful tropical part of the world, and you have a plan for the day. You know, you've got your sandwiches, and you've got a little bit of apple tarts, and you got your flask of coffee and whatever you like. And you're going to have a beautiful day. You're going to go to this island over here, which is famous for its beaches. You're going to go over here because there's a wildlife reserve. You're going to go to this island, etc. The next thing, the Lord appears to you. And you say, Lord, wow, my goodness, Lord. And he says, can I come into your boat? Right? So at that point, you're probably thinking, yeah, sure, Lord, come into the boat. Then he says, why don't you hand me the oars? And I'll take care of everything. And that's where we struggle. Because we think, oh, well, I was going to go to that island, and and the Lord might want me to go to that island, and then I was going to go here, and he might want it the other way around, or whatever it is. And it's to have that trust, to hand over the oars to the Lord and say, Lord, I'm all yours, whatever is your will, because I trust you. What does it say at the bottom of the Divine Mercy image? And remember, Jesus asked Saint Faustina to paint this image, and he said at the bottom of the image, right, Jesus, I trust in you. Trust is the answer. Trust is the expression of faith. So if we can trust in the Lord, whenever we're feeling anxious, whenever we're feeling worried, whatever is on our mind, trust in him. He created you. He looked after you. He knew you before you were in the womb. Imagine, he thought about you before you were even born. And you are unique and special to God. There is no one in the world that was ever like you. There will never be anyone who will be like you. You are unique. You have a unique mission in the world, and you are special. You have gifts and talents, every single one of you, that no one else has ever had. You've had experiences in life that no one else has ever had. So, sometimes we can think, oh, I wish I was like her, she seems to have everything. And, she came from the perfect family, or I wish I was like him. He's good at football, you are unique and special. God came as Jesus to die for you, to give his life as a ransom, as the scripture says, for you. You are special. He has a special plan for you. He didn't make you, as we say in Ireland, he didn't make you for the crack and then say, right, off you go. He's with you. Imagine God is with you every single step of the way. And sometimes we feel, where's God? Where's the Lord? I can't sense him. I can't feel him. Did you ever see that poem that was written called Footprints in the Sand? Have you seen that? It's a beautiful poem because the person who wrote it obviously was going through a lot of difficulty and went through that experience. And the idea is that in the difficult times, they noticed that there was only one footprint in the sand, right? One set of footprints, right? But when all other times, they could see two sets of footprints, so the Lord's and their own, right? And they said, Lord, where were you when I was going through the difficulties? There was only one set of footprints. And the Lord said, that's because I was carrying you. They were my footprints. You see, the Lord is with us every single step of the way, loves us and shares everything with you, wants to know, all that's going on in your life. He wants you to spend time with him, and he wants you to tell him about yourself and your difficulties and so forth. So just a couple of things, guys. I just want to finish with, we're running out of time. I can go on a bit, sorry. So I think, it's important that you cultivate a life of prayer, that you spend time with the Lord, and especially if you can go to the church. This is really, really important. It's not enough to know about Jesus. I know he was here 2,000 odd years ago, and I know his mother was Mary and Joseph, and I know all these things. I know scripture quotes. I know everything. But do you know Jesus? He's alive. He's living. He rose from the dead. He's alive. Do you know him? You got to get to know him. And you get to know him by reading about him in the scriptures and by spending time with him. And silence, guys, is really important, to just switch off the engines, even for 5 minutes every day. If you can do it in the church, fantastic. If you can't, because, you'll be at college or whatever, and you come home late, and even just in a corner in the room, just turn off everything and just me and Jesus. Mother Teresa, you say, first thing you do when you wake up in the morning is say, good morning, Jesus. Speak to him. And that automatically puts the day into perspective. There's nothing I can handle today because Jesus is with me. Jesus is the Lord, guys, all powerful, can do anything. But you have to invite him more into your life. The other thing I would say is, if you can, in this month of October, pray the rosary. The rosary is really, really powerful. The rosary is, there's so many different aspects to the rosary. We can meditate on the mysteries of Christ, his birth, his crucifixion, the carrying of the cross, his resurrection, etc., right? We can meditate on the mysteries, but also the actual fingering of the beads actually calms your soul. You know that? After World War II, when prisoners were traumatized, after the explosions and the horrors of war, they would get them to knit and to, crochet, to use the fingers as a way of therapy, as a way of calming the soul. And in the same way, when you're fingering the beads, it does something like that to you, right? When you're praying, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with you, that rhythm calms your soul as well. So you're feeling stressed, pray the rosary. And if you can get into the discipline of having the rosary in your life, lads, you're bringing Our Lady into your life. Now, Our Lady's intercession is greater than all the angels. Now, there's billions and billions of angels, right? Billions. All the angels and all the saints put together, Our Lady's intercession is greater. So if you can bring Our Lady more into your life, she's going to give you so many graces. You'll have her protection, and you'll have a very good mental health, let me tell you that. and you need not worry about anything. So I think I've gone over the time there, Angela. So just to finish up, the only thing you need to worry about, guys, is, am I ready to die tonight? When you feel anxiety, stress, whatever it is coming on you, hand it over to Jesus. Give him the yours, trust in him, and all will be well. And he will give you a peace in your soul that you cannot get from anything else in this world. So thanks for listening.
Thanks so much, Father. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Perfect. That was really powerful. And I was just kind of touched by how you said, trusting in God that much and having that balance as well of, your kind of physical health, your mental health, and your spiritual health. I used to be the kind of person that used to think like, if you have God or if you have faith, then like you won't have any kind of like mental struggles or you won't be facing anything. And I kind of realized that's not right when I started struggling with mental health myself. So I just kind of want to share my own experience today, just the kind of struggles that I went through over the past few years and the steps that I kind of took to recover from it. I haven't been like fully recovered. I would say it's still kind of a daily struggle, but it's a lot better than how it used to be. So what happened to me, or like how it kind of started was a few years ago, I had to kind of make a really important decision in my life. And I was also quite like growing in my faith as well. So I was in the mindset of I wanted to do God's will in whatever I do. But I got to a stage where I started overthinking it. So I was always kind of questioning my decisions and every step, like, is this God's will? Is this not God's will? Like, am I going to hell for this? And I really started getting anxious about every single decision that I had to take. And I kind of started beating myself up over a lot of things as well, because I was just so anxious about making decisions, if something was right or wrong. And it got to a stage where at one point I actually thought I was going crazy. Like I would get so anxious to a level where I could feel it physically, like I could feel my face like burning. I would feel it like getting very hot. And sometimes it was just so physically crippling. Like I couldn't kind of think about something else, like this particular thought would be on my mind for the whole day or for like a few days. And I sometimes I wouldn't physically be able to do anything else either. So it really was crippling, like the anxiety just got to me so much. And I dealt with this for quite a while, like for almost 2 years at this kind of intensity. And I had no idea what was happening either. Like I couldn't put it to words. If I had to kind of explain something to my family, like about this decision, I would just start bursting into tears. Like I didn't know what was happening to me either. Because I was always just questioning, like, what I'm doing, is that morally right or wrong? And is God going to punish me for this? So at the start of this year, actually, I finally kind of made my decision and then I got more time to kind of think and look back over things. And then at the start of this year, like when we went into lockdown as well, especially, I kind of got more time to think and reflect on like what was happening. And I remembered a year ago when I was at a retreat, the bishop was talking about our conscience, right? So he was kind of explaining, it's a big topic and I'm not going to go into it fully, but just the part that kind of struck me. So he was talking about kind of 3 types of consciences. So one was your lax conscience. So that's where someone is extremely lukewarm in the faith. So they don't see anything as sinful or something that is actually mortally sinful. They would think it's a venial sin. Then there's your tender or mature conscience, which is like the kind of right balance, the stage to be at, where you have a clear and like a vigilant discernment of what is good. And you act based on objective morals, not just what you think is right, or you act based on what God's truth is, and what the church teaches. And then there's a scrupulous conscience. So this is where someone might believe that something is sinful when it actually isn't. And then in its extremity, it's a type of neurosis where the person is terrified of sinning when they have to make a choice regarding something that's moral or religious. So it's kind of like OCD with religion. And then when I was kind of looking more into this and thinking about it, it kind of sounded like what I was sort of going through. And then I started to speak to people about it. So like Father said, having that kind of community and people that you can talk to on a spiritual level is so important. I started to talk to like a few of my Catholic friends, And I started going for like spiritual direction as well, and that just opened up so many things for me. Like I spoke to someone who was actually struggling with this as well, and just knowing about their experiences made me realize that I'm not alone on this, and that I'm not actually going that crazy. Like this is something that I can recover from, you know, and something that I can get out of. And I also realized I had a very warped idea of God's love, you know, of what God had created me to be and how I'm supposed to love him as well. So just talking to people made me realize that, you know, like the truth about my faith, like I just got so much more of truth about what it means to be a Christian and what it means to love. So that itself, just talking to people about it, made so much of a difference. And the other thing was I started going for counseling. So this is quite a difficult thing, especially if you're coming from an Indian community. Like, you know, Father Marius is saying, there is a lot of stigma still, that counseling is not something, you know, that we talk about, or like even mental health is not something that we talk about a lot. So this was quite difficult for me to kind of get used to. But even that made so much of a difference. And I realized like there's no shame in it, you know, that opening up about your problems, like it helps us to understand and face the truth. And the other big thing was opening up to God again. Like I was quite scared to pray because I used to have these intrusive thoughts, and it was actually like my faith that I was quite struggling in. But when our faith is based in truth, you know, that's when we get a clearer picture. And also I realized that our conscience is not just based on like thoughts. Our thoughts are just our feelings, but it's based on the truth of God and what God actually teaches through his church and through the scripture. So yeah, just to really open up to God, like truly, and just ask him for help, and to give up that control, you know, to actually genuinely trust. Because I used to think I was like trusting in God, but I was still trying to control everything. And I realized I can't. Like I realized that I don't have the strength to kind of carry it all on my own. So I just want to kind of tell you that, you know, if there's something that you're kind of struggling with and something that's crippling in your life that you feel like you can't get out of, there's always grace. And there's always hope. You know, I used to, like 2 years ago, I would have never imagined that I would be giving like this kind of a testimony, because 2 years ago, I just thought this was it, you know, like I'm going to be dealing with this at this kind of intensity for the rest of my life. But I've come so far. I've come so far from like talking to people, getting help, and from opening up to God as well. So if you feel like there's something that, you know, you're kind of stuck in, and these might be crosses that we have to bear. And I'm kind of glad that I went through this, because I became so much more understanding and compassionate of people who might be struggling with other kind of mental struggles. So I'm kind of glad that, you know, like I had this kind of humbling experience. But I just want to say that it's not the end, you know, when we feel like we're kind of stuck in a place like this and stuck in our thoughts, you know, God will definitely bring us out of it. Like he doesn't want us to live in fear or live in anxiety. That's not what the truth is, you know, that's not what scripture teaches us. Roshan, will you just share that thing there? It's a little quote that I found. Oh yeah, perfect. And this is like a little quote that I found on a Catholic Instagrammer's post. So the devil wants you to believe that you're a special kind of wounded, that no one can love and no one can heal you. He's a liar. You're loved by God, and you know Jesus can heal you, which is the truth, you know. And we might feel like this is it, like I can't get out of this, even if it's like particular sins, you know, or any kind of struggle, like this is it kind of thing. But that's not the truth. And there's always hope, and God is always giving us graces. Like we just need to be open to it. Yeah. So that's my part. If anyone